For my informational interview, I decided to interview Perry Scott, who is a semiconductor field service engineer over at Hitachi High Technologies America. He is part of the Tool Progression Services team, or TPS team, and he's been there for about 10 years. I was introduced to Mr. Scott by my girlfriend's father, who was also a semiconductor engineer, but has since then retired. He was never a part of the TPS team, however. My initial assumption for this career is that in order to gain an entry position like Mr. Scott had many years ago, you would have to have extensive training and at least minimal background knowledge in semiconducting or electronics, at least. I also assumed that it was more of a tech job just because when you think of semiconductors, or when I think of semiconductors, I think of computer chips and processors. I mean, that's what semiconducting produces in the end result, so that's where my brain kind of goes. But I was a little wrong in thinking that after going over some of the daily tasks that he does, I realized that it's maybe not as techy as I thought. Um, First of all, he started off with stating basically the mission statement. I mean, his job as being part of the TPS team is to provide etch equipment for semiconductor companies who are their customers, and they're required to know how to install, remove, demo, and upgrade this equipment. Um, he described the work environment as a clean room environment or factory environment. He told me when they work with the material, they're required to actually wear like bunny suits. Covers everything on them. All you can see is their eyes. And the reason for this is because manufacturing of chip manufacturing is susceptible to damage through particles, which is something I didn't know. So I thought that was interesting. Some skills that he told me were necessary for his success were his leadership abilities, which I feel are always a must. In some point or time in our careers, we must learn how to be good leaders. He had basic knowledge in electronics, analytical thinking skills, common sense, which I thought was kind of funny, but he was serious. Ability to be able to work with instructions and read a manual. He said all these skills helped him succeed. Some other things that I found interesting was that he had no prior knowledge of semiconductors before becoming a semiconductor engineer. All he had was a degree from DeBry University, which was just like a basic course for electricians. I also found out that his Holland's code was identical to mine, which was RIC. I just thought that was kind of a cool coincidence. Um, the overall interview went really well. It gave me a lot of practice interviewing because I've never interviewed anyone, so that was new to me. It was very informal though. We just did it at like a local coffee shop. He gave me a lot of information on what he does and like the kind of environment he's in and kind of people he worked with. And I almost feel like I learned a little bit about the kind of person he was just by what he does. Um, One thing that I loved about his job was the amount of attention to detail that it requires. That's a big thing for me. I've always been really big on that. I also liked how much OJT, or on-the-job training, he talked about. He talked about it as if that's like all that happens, and that's kind of what I'm used to anyway. Like being prior military is, I'm really used to hands-on learning. So I thought that was really cool. The only thing I wasn't thrilled about was the bunny suits thing. I don't think it would be fun suiting up every day all the way up to my face just to work with little components. My overall view after the interview, though, for this occupation or career, I guess I should say, because it is a career, is definitely different from where it started. And that's mainly because I didn't realize that it doesn't require a degree in electrical engineering, or you don't have to know all this stuff. He was telling me that they have hired people with no experience and have trained them. Um, so, a little bit of knowledge wouldn't hurt, but literally, if you're capable of doing something like this, you're capable of getting the job. Um, I also didn't realize, well, I mean, I knew it was a very analytical job, but I didn't realize how hands-on it could be as well. He made it seem very hands-on, and I like hands-on, so that's a positive thing. Um, Before, I didn't really see myself in this position, just because I wasn't fully aware of all the facts. I was unsure about the skills I would need or what the work environment was like. But after interviewing him, it gave me a better picture of what semiconducting engineer does. And now that I know that, and I see that it lines up a lot better with some skills, interests, and work environment preferences of my own, I can apply that uh, to making my decision ultimately. I can apply this overall experience just by doing more research when I have a possible, um, you know, career choice or new opportunity. Do some research. Find someone that works in that field, interview someone, do some online research of your own. I mean, I find it a lot easier to make a decision now that I know so much more about what it is I'm making that decision on. So that's if anything, that is what I take away the most from this, is that research, research, research. It's always important to look deeper into something rather than just passing it over. Anyway, thank you for watching my video. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them at the bottom.